I was informed that some of our firearms were in the hands of some people that they shouldn't have been in.
Former employees?
Yes.
Okay.
That never turned them in, that ended up becoming a part of a gang.
Oh, awesome. Hey everybody, welcome back to Take on the Lake with Lake Expo. I'm Nathan Bechtold. Thanks so much for joining us. Today in the studio, we have Camden County Sheriff Chris Edgar. And Chris and I, as is often the case with my guests, have interacted many times before now, but only shook hands in person today for the first time.
Correct.
So that's the modern tragedy, but it's good that at least we remedied that today. Yeah. We're going to talk about stuff related to Camden County law enforcement stuff. Chris is just finishing his first year of his term as
Correct.
sheriff. So we'll talk a little about what you found when you arrived at the sheriff's office, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what you've done this year, what on the horizon. We'll have lots of stuff. And you're a super busy guy, way busier than me, I think. And so I appreciate you taking some time to come in. Chris, thanks for coming on the show.
It's an honor being on here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start with a little background, because I don't actually even know your background. I probably should, as an interviewer, study up on people a little more before I interview them, but sometimes I like to go in with pure ignorance, and then I can actually genuinely ask, tell me your background. Okay, so are you a Lake local guy? Are you an import? What's your background? Give us all that.
Moved here in about 2001. I originally came from a small town, Lawson, Missouri. Grew up farming. My dad was on the fire department. I followed in his footsteps for a little bit. Fire department EMT. They ended up retiring, moved down here. I went to college for a little bit, and then I ended up coming down here to the lake for that summer break, and I ended up staying. I just felt home, and I didn't look back, and I ended up working at Lake Regional Hospital. At that time, I started a construction company.
As an EMT, you were at Lake Regional, working with them? Okay.
I was there. I worked in their emergency room.
Okay.
And then I was on the fire services, and then started a construction company, and it went well. And then ended up moving back to, I ended up in Kansas City for a while. I ended up working 3 different companies throughout there for a few years in between. I ended up managing very large companies. So it worked out. It gave me a lot of experience in the management side, how to balance those budgets to keep them functioning. Had to fix a couple companies, but the last one I was working at, I was at a heavy equipment company. I was a sales manager and territory manager for the entire state of Missouri for Case, Kubota, Yanmar, Gale, all kinds of heavy equipment. The last 2 projects that I worked on was Kansas City Power and Light District and Kauffman Stadium remodel.
Okay.
Was our equipment. At that time, my wife knew we were doing very well for ourselves, but she knew I have a servant's heart, and she wanted to move back to the lake and told me, hey, we're moving back to the lake, and you've always wanted to go into law enforcement. And I said, it's the pay. And she said, I don't care about the pay. I want you happy. And we did that. And I came here and making $12.75 an hour. So it was a lot of financial adjustments to make it happen. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been a blessing. I truly believe law enforcement is a calling from God. And that's where I'm being called.
Okay. So you came to the lake for the second time around, and did you come to Camden County Sheriff's office? Like you went through law enforcement academy? How did that?
I went to the University of Missouri.
Okay.
And that's where I ended up getting my law enforcement, my Class A certification. Put in for the sheriff's office. I didn't get it. I ended up getting a position with Camden Police Department at that time. And I'd spent most of my career at Camden Police Department. Throughout all of that, I actually had tested for O'Fallon Police Department over in St. Louis area. I was in the hiring process. I was being offered a position. At that time, Brian Keaty was our prosecutor and contacted me and said, if we match what they're going to pay you, would you stay and take over our investigations and help run our office? And that's what ended up happening. I was very fortunate with Camdenton. They sent me to all kinds of training. I did all their major crimes. I was a crime scene investigator. I was a child forensic investigator. They took very good care of me.
Good.
And
yeah.
And then I ended up at the prosecutor's office for a couple of years. I was very blessed to have that as well.
So you were there under Keedy, and then whom?
And Gilly.
Okay.
Yes.
And then after Gilly was
Heather Miller.
Gosh, that's been quite a turnover in the
It
prosecutor's office.
They all keep going to judges.
I know. In fact, our current prosecutor, Rochelle Grosvenor, was telling me, I was talking to her earlier this week, and she said she feels like one of the challenges in the prosecutor's office is that there actually hasn't been a prosecutor serve an entire elected term, get elected, serve the entire term for, I think it's like a decade almost, or a very long time. So that's an interesting thing. Okay, so you were in the prosecutor's office there for a little bit as the head of investigations. Is that what you said?
I was chief of investigations, and I had also taken up chief of operations.
Okay. I didn't actually know this. I don't know when I learned this, but for a long time, that the prosecutor's office has their own investigation side as well. So like you always think of law enforcement on the sheriff's deputy or police side as being the investigators, and they obviously have that and do a lot of work there. But then at the prosecutor's office, they have their own investigation unit because they have their own stuff that they got to sort out and get ready for a trial or whatever the situation is going to be. So you were in charge of running that for however many years that was.
It was
2 or 3 or
3, I believe.
Okay.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yes, and the fortunate thing was that, and how that works, I don't know if anyone's explained it. They have their investigators, but to be law enforcement, they have to be commissioned, and that commission comes from the sheriff's office. So that so they get their law enforcement. So that's how, and it works out. It's hand-in-hand relationship. So we all work together. So we're very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So you did that, and then you slid from prosecutor's office, chief investigator, over to the sheriff's office.
I was throughout that time. I was also with the sheriff's office as an investigator.
Oh, because they're part of the sort of certifying or licensing you to do that with the prosecutor. Okay. Got it.
So I actually ended up working kind of both, and then Ferguson happened, and then I ended up getting a phone call from Camden Schools and said, "Hey, we're wanting to start a law enforcement program. Would you be interested in applying for it?" First, I told them no. I enjoyed what I was doing, spent some time with the wife. She's a teacher. We did some praying about it, and I ended up putting in, I said, "God, if it's your will, make it happen. I'll do whatever you want." I went, I interviewed, I had a job. They offered me the job after the interview. And I was like, oh my. So I ended up stepping out of that role at the prosecutor's office and teaching high school level kids law enforcement. And it was, when I first started, I told my wife, I said, "What did you get me into?" Because there was no curriculum. There was nothing.
It was like, "Hey, Chris, would you create this thing?
Figure this out.
Yeah.
You've got to teach something, so figure it out." Okay. So we ended up figuring that out. It was a blessing. Those kids, phenomenal. Throughout the whole time, I also worked with Camden Police Department, so I worked 2 jobs basically.
Okay.
I ended up helping with kind of a lead, like supervisor position part-time with them as they needed it. Talk about rewarding. It was working with those kids. It was very eye-opening. And as officers, we don't get to see a lot of that. Usually when we go to something, it's usually people are having the worst time of their life.
Sure.
And it was very enlightening.
So how long did you do that for?
12 years.
Oh, wow. So okay. So did you go straight from that to running for sheriff? Is that?
I was, yes, that, and I was at the Camden Police Department. I worked both of them, and then I went ahead and made my run for sheriff. So.
Okay. So there's the Chris Edgar
just a quick
life arc there. Correct. So far. Yeah. How old are you?
44 right now.
44.
I had to think about that.
Yeah. Not even halfway there by modern measuring. Actually, maybe slightly over half, but I'm slightly over half too. I'm 41. Okay, so that's good. So I appreciate that background because I didn't know a lot of that. I didn't know much of your law enforcement background at all, so that's helpful to know. When you got to the sheriff's office, So you were elected again. We're doing this interview in December of 2025. Elections were in November of 2024, and you won that election, and then you started January 1, basically,
Correct.
of 2025. So this year, talk about a couple of things that you found, like when you got to the sheriff's office, good, the bad, and the ugly. You go for it.
Okay.
What did you find when you got there?
When I first, right after I ended up winning the election, Tony allowed me to come in, the sheriff at that time.
Tony Helms, previous sheriff.
Correct.
Yeah.
And work on the budget, which I'm very appreciative for. So we were able to, it took me a long time to work on this budget to break this down. One of my first priorities was I wanted to get our deputies' pay up. We're a first-class county, and we were probably the lowest first-class county pay for deputies.
What was it? What was it at? What was the range?
46,000.
46,000 a year.
So we took it up, and prior to that, Tony did great work to get that up to where it was, because it was at $12.19 an hour.
Okay.
So he got that up, and then we were able to get it up to $51,848, and also implement a night shift differential, which is $1.50 an hour for anyone working that overnight shift. So as I progress on, now I'm going to the new sheriff's school, and I swing into the office before I head in just to get all my paperwork. And one of the secretaries asked me about a grant. I said, yeah, just give it to me. I'll look at it while I'm over there. No worries. They were wanting some information on it. I sat down and I'm looking at this grant and I'm like, this grant is not right. There's a lot of discrepancies. The grant is for hiring new school resource officers. We have taken our employees that we already had as school resource officers and put them into this grant. So we're not being very truthful about this.
They were supposed to be for new hires.
Correct.
Not for just paying guys you already had as
Correct.
SROs.
And then they made an exception and they said because of COVID, we were going to have to lay off deputies, which that was not true either. We never shut down for COVID. Actually, COVID, we had a major boom here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if anything, it was a revenue windfall for
Correct.
Camden County generally during COVID and post-COVID time.
So one of the things about me, if there's something wrong, I'm not going to beat around the bush. We need to get it fixed. If I screw up, I'll own it. But I knew we had to self-report this. We're looking at a $350,000 grant. That's a big chunk of money that we've accepted on terms that we should not have accepted them on.
Mm-hmm.
So I contacted the FBI and I self-reported through the FBI. They came in, actually, we weren't able to get it done until my third week of in office. And not only did they come in, the ATF came in with them to have some talks with me about some other stuff. So by opening that third week, I've got the FBI and ATF now in my office.
Yeah.
So since we've self-reported, the way it's looking right now, we will not have to pay back the money. They're going to go ahead and grant us the grant and can keep that, and we're not going to be suspended. Because usually whenever you do something wrong on a grant, it's 5-year suspension. You've got to pay it back. But because right when I found out, I contacted them. They were showing leniency, which I really appreciate. I was willing to take the lumps if we needed to. We're going to do what's right. So
Interesting. So they said, good job owning this. Thanks for doing that. You can keep the money.
yes, basically that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
We finished.
That's a good outcome, I guess, in the end.
We were honest with the paperwork. It worked out. So I'm very thankful for that.
The sheriff's office has had a bumpy relationship with the ATF, as has all of Camden County, as has many counties across the country, as have many people across the country. And I would say if you wanted to be on the side of the general public, you would have a little bit more of an antagonistic stance towards the ATF. They've done themselves no favors with PR. But I'm interested, so with all those things said, I'm interested in how that meeting went, because I bet that was partly the backdrop. No?
To a point, yes. They had some issues that they wanted to make me aware of. They didn't know our inventory of our guns. And at that time,
who says they have to know?
we have to report all of our guns to the ATF.
Why?
by statute.
By state statute? Missouri state statute says that sheriff's offices have to report their entire firearms inventory to the ATF.
A lot of them, most of our firearms have to be reported to the ATF, especially our flashbangs.
Oh, and this is where the flashbangs come in.
Yes.
Okay.
So not only did we have a problem there, but I was informed that some of our firearms were in the hands of some people that they shouldn't have been in.
Former employees?
Yes.
Okay.
That never turned them in, that ended up becoming a part of a gang.
Oh, awesome. Great. So former employees have a firearm that didn't get turned in after they left Camden County Sheriff's Office, kept their department firearm, and now that individual is part of a gang, or the guns ended up in the hands of a gang, or both.
Was both.
Yeah.
Ended up going into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to sit back in my chair and think, oh, we don't have an inventory of our firearms. So we ended up having to get what the ATF had to do our inventory of what we had. And that's when we found out, I believe it was 372 flashbangs that we did not have at our office anywhere. And they were showing that we had them.
You have any idea where they went?
I have no clue.
Why would somebody want a flashbang? I guess you could probably resell them on the black market.
I have no clue. They are a grenade. They're an explosive.
Yeah.
Every one of them are now reported as stolen. They're entered into the system. Every one of them will have a serial number. So if we ever come across them, now.
If there's like somebody gets arrested, or there's
Correct.
And they come across a stash of flashbangs, then they'll, I'm sure, cross-check serial numbers and go, oh, those are 18 of the ones. Yeah.
Which,
interesting.
When you're talking about firearms, when I came in the office, our firearms were in the men's locker room, locked in lockers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I don't know who had keys. So we've had to do a lot of remodeling in the office. So now all lockers are locked in a room, all firearms, all ammunition, and even like uniform equipment we have a quartermaster now. All of them are locked in there. You go to the back of that quartermaster's room and it's an armory and it's all locked. So not only quartermaster does not have keys to the armory, there's only 2 firearms instructors that have keys to the armory. I have 1 key in my safe that I don't even know. It stays in my safe. I don't want any, just like the evidence. I'll go in.
It's the emergency key, basically. Yeah.
2 people go into it at a time. Whenever you enter there, all firearms are also in firearm safes.
Each individual firearm?
We have big firearm safes inside of there.
Oh, okay.
They're all sitting
inside the room. They're inside safes. So that when a deputy clocks in, do they have to go to the armory to? No, they have their own personal issued equipment. So what is it that was formerly locked in lockers in the men's dressing room that is now in an armory type thing?
All extra firearms, all AR-15s. At that time, we had 2 Steyr fully automatic firearms. You've got which they call them grenade launchers. They're for your gases, your canister launcher, any specialized equipment, your flashbangs, anything firearms related or was not secure how it should have been.
Okay.
So we've immediately took care of this.
That probably had nothing to do with the fact that there are 300 missing flashbangs.
No clue.
Right.
Yeah.
When it's not secured that way. So again, it went from that kind of the flashbangs, AR-15s, we're going to call them grenade launchers because that sounds awesome. Launchers of various varieties in lockers in the men's locker room that were, I guess, in theory locked, but who knows who had what key? Or was there a combination or
It was a combination lock.
Okay.
It was just
so
like your...
Everybody knew the combination. Let's just assume that. I think
that's the way.
Like that's how that would eventually go. I just can't imagine. And now they've all moved out of there into a room in the back of the quartermaster's office.
It's doubled secured.
You said it has 2 keys. So in other words, 2 guys have to turn their keys in it or put their key in it to open that door.
Yeah. And it also has a fob to where whenever you fob in, it also mechanically logs you and there's cameras all
Okay.
over that room now.
That's an improvement.
It is.
I mean, that was not a cheap improvement, I'm sure, but I think everyone would agree that's a good idea.
And you never know. Ammunition is so expensive. Whenever as much ammunition as we go through, if everybody has full reign to it and they just go grab a couple boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And
some of it makes it into the personal stash.
Yeah.
Some of it, yep.
And now everything has to go through a checkout process. Whatever's not used, it comes back.
Wow.
Checks and balances. I'm
Yeah.
a big checks and balances guy.
Great. And then on the AR-15s, I remember, and again, I'm getting a lot of this info from the meeting that you spoke at last week, and that actually was the catalyst for this interview, because you said a lot of things that I was furiously taking notes, typing I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a banger, like one after another, man. And then I wrote an article earlier this week about it, just itemizing all the stuff that you've done in less than one calendar year at this point. And so one of those things was so two other things in the changes that were just stunning to me. One was, I guess most of your AR-15s weren't working, or a lot of them.
Correct.
What does not working mean?
So a lot of those were prior military, what have you, and came back. There's problems. If you can't trust your rifle, it's not worth having. If it's having so many malfunctions, they've been cycled through, had so many rounds shot through them, we actually have just placed an order for new AR-15s through Black Rain.
Which is a Missouri company.
Missouri company.
Love it.
We actually priced CCMG and Black Rain, two Missouri companies. But our problem was, even if we would we'd give one of those rifles out, deputies aren't going to trust them, so they carry their own.
Oh, yeah. The former ones that were not working.
Correct.
Basically, they would have it, but bring their own AR just because I don't know if I can rely on this.
Right before I came into office, we had an officer involved shooting. Someone pulled the AR. It ended up being like a BB gun AR-15, but they did not know at the time. Pulled it up and started to point it at the deputy. He fired one shot at the guy and hit him. The guy's still alive. It was not a fatal shot, but his AR-15 is now in evidence. That's his personal AR-15. Who knows when he's going to get it back? That a really nice thing.
Because that's a highway patrol investigation kind of thing at that point. So they've got it, and he gets it back when they are done.
Correct. If they get it back. You
Sure.
never know.
Yeah.
So Black Rain, one of the big pushes for us for Black Rain is they have a lifetime warranty. And if there's ever officer involved shooting, they'll replace that firearm for free. They'll give you another one until that one either gets out, or you keep it until, if it's never getting out, it becomes yours.
Just replaced. Yeah.
Correct.
Nice. That's a good deal for just,
It is.
Yeah. A lot of reasons.
And they really took care of us on them. We did put in an order for, I believe it was 45 AR-15s. So that's in the process right now. We've also replaced our handguns. So we did a trade-in. So we looked at all of our rifles. We traded in all of those to get as much money back. Because let's be realistic, I don't need AR-15s. They're not going to be functional for us. Right. And I don't need fully automatic firearms. So we were able to trade all this in to get a really good deal. And we did the same thing with our handguns. We switched from a Glock 17, which is a 9mm, to a Glock 45, which is also a 9mm, but the barrel is a little bit shorter. And we went with green dot Holosun laser sights. So we were able to, since we went with the shorter barrel, now I don't have to look at getting two firearms for their off-duty. They could actually carry one firearm, does everything.
Explain that a little more. I don't understand what that means, because I don't.
So
why does that make it so they only have to have one? Because it's shorter, easier to conceal?
It's easier to conceal.
Okay.
So now we don't have to buy another smaller firearm to be able to conceal.
Okay.
But if they want to carry a smaller firearm, they're able to. They just have to qualify with that.
Okay.
With this. One of my big things that I was looking at is, if you look at officer-involved shootings, when you look at iron sights, whenever you get into a high-stress situation, your hand-eye coordination, your eyesight, everything starts to dissipate.
Right. Yeah.
All of your blood comes to the center of your body. You're now in, oh my goodness, I've got to live. So the hips go way down. You're talking 31% accuracy when all that fine motor skills go.
Even on a guy who, when he's nice and calm and at the range, can put a really tight grouping.
100%.
Yeah,
Now,
when you're stressed and you're like maybe you're out of breath and there's a ton of adrenaline, it goes down to 31%.
So it dramatically increases with that green sight.
Okay.
That it's either green or red. We went with green because it doesn't affect nystigmatisms.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And they're brighter, so you can see them during the day. That makes it a lot easier. It takes a lot of that. Whenever we used to train, it was front sight, rear sight, trigger press, bang. It takes a lot of that. You put the green dot on it, and you're good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, rearmed basically.
Correct.
And then the other thing, and this was stunning to me, was I guess you call them ballistic vests, whatever bulletproof vests is what us normies call it. Yeah. Were not very bulletproof. They'd stop a pellet gun. They would stop a 22. Not a 9mm full metal jacket.
A 9mm full metal jacket, high grain, it will not stop. They would not stop it.
And a full metal jacket is, for the folks out there that don't know what that means,
it's the number one round that you're going to have carried by your criminals.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other words, but explain what a 9mm full metal jacket is.
So it's a solid core brass projectile that's coming out as opposed to a lead. The lead mushrooms, the brass does not mushroom much. It just basically goes through. Those are your target rounds. They're a cheaper round.
Yeah. So the cheapest round is the one that a bad guy is the most likely to be running through his 9mm if he's shooting at an officer. And so a 9mm, which this is actually interesting. I think people that don't know much about firearms intuitively think of this the wrong way, which is they think of hollow points as like the really dangerous bad guns. And it's actually, those vests would have stopped a hollow point, but they wouldn't stop a solid bullet. And actually hollow points from a certain standpoint are actually a safer round because they are less likely to go through and hit something or somebody behind the object you're shooting at. Anyways, that's just a sidebar, but that's an interesting kind of, for anybody that doesn't know much about ammunition. And yet, again, a lot of times what folks would be firing through a 9mm being the most common caliber, would be a solid bullet, not a hollow point bullet.
Correct.
And the point of all this is that the vests that your deputies were wearing, or at least some of them were wearing, would not stop one of those bullets.
Correct. If they were a level 2 vest, we did test one of the level 2 vests. We took it to the range, and that's how we found out, oh my goodness, these are going through.
That's crazy. Gosh.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Which your ballistic vests are not cheap. So that was the first thing that we ended up doing right off the bat, is purchasing all level 3A vest and an outer carrier. So with the level 3A vest, we also ended up purchasing the rifle plates, because our rifle plates, every one of them were expired.
What's a rifle plate?
So it's it's like a steel plate that's designed to, because your vest is not going to stop your rifle rounds.
Not going to stop somebody from shooting an AR-15 or something. Yeah,
They're just going way too fast. But the steel, that plate will, and that's what they're made for. So we were able to buy the level 3A vest with the plates and the ballistic carrier. Now the carrier, a lot of times you'll have to have 2 different carriers. So we were able to find one carrier that would do both purposes. So you have your soft plates, which are your level 3As already in, you have them in the vest.
That stops the 9mm round. Yeah.
And then, so they don't have to carry the level 4 plates now. All they have to do is open their vest and they slide right in.
Oh, okay.
And they strap in.
Okay.
So it makes
it's a little bit more of if you're going into a situation,
correct,
you would slide those in.
Correct.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, I've got a lot of our deputies that now are wearing their front plates all the time.
Really?
They do add considerable amount of weight.
That's a good ruck, anyways.
It is.
Build some body strength while you're out there, adding some weight, create some back problems, maybe. You never know. But hey, a lot of people wear weighted vests on purpose.
Absolutely.
So. Okay, that's a substantial upgrade. And when you had said that at the meeting about them not stopping a 9mm round, that was like, wow.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Our employees are our biggest asset.
No kidding.
By far, and we have to be able to provide them with the right equipment and make sure that they're safe. In return, it's going to also help make our community safe.
Yeah.
That's been our goal. But yeah, we've had a lot of hoops hoops to jump through.
Yeah, and you've worked a lot too. We were just talking about this before we pushed record. You're logging more hours than the average Joe bids for in a week.
Yes, my biggest thing is I won't ever ask any of my people to do anything that I will not do. So I'll go out and work the road with them. I think it's important for them to see me out there. So every holiday, I'm out on the road. The weekends, I'm out. I've had to come out quite a few times just to help fill in. I enjoy being out on the road. But yes, we've spent a lot of time at that office.
Yeah. And then you guys there are 30 deputies right now. Is that right?
30, that's roughly about 30 on the road.
Okay.
We've got about, 75 deputies total, counting reserves. But I've got court security, I've got the jail, we've got the road. Working on that right now.
Because, you were saying you want more road deputies. What is it, 13 more or something like that?
I think we're going to go 15.
15 more.
And that's what I have. Just finished 2 out of FTO. I have 4 going into FTO now. And I have
field.
They're going to,
What's the O?
Officers.
Okay.
They're going to be with their FTOs. And then 6 cadets are going into the academy right now.
Okay. Cool.
We're talking, that's 12 right there. The numbers are getting there. It's been a balancing act. When we took office, there were some employees that it was not the right fit for them.
Sure.
So we've had a lot of changes throughout
that.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do.
But
when you're leading, right? Yes. Make those tough decisions.
Correct. One of my biggest things I did not expect coming in, which we found out about all the ballistic vests, the firearms, all this, IT. So before I took office, they had switched IT companies. And which ended up being a good thing. But when I first came into office, we lost all internet. So that took our dispatch down for a week.
Why did you lose all internet?
The prior IT company, all of our servers were bad. They basically band-aided everything just to try to get it by.
You were using like in-house servers, basically?
Yeah, we have all in-house servers. A lot of the passwords, they were refusing to give over. So whenever they switched IT companies, they were saying they just basically ghosted them. So they had nothing.
The former IT company was refusing to give certain access to the new IT company?
So we had nothing.
Right.
So for a whole week, the new IT company basically had to go in and hack the old IT company to get stuff. So for that week, we were dispatching off of handheld radios.
No way.
The only phone line we had coming in was our 911 line. So that was a week right off the bat.
Man, that took you back like 60 years. That's,
my goodness.
That's like the olden days Mayberry situation.
It was very rough. We were getting creative. We were bringing in hotspots to be able to log in to keep notes on our software side. I mean, it was, and there was a couple times, thankful for Osage Beach, had to step up and take over while our servers, because we had to replace every server in there.
No way. That's not cheap.
No, it's been very expensive.
Wow.
And it was not budgeted. Then that next week after that, all the emails went down because he had all the access to all the emails.
The former IT company.
So we lost all emails it was 5 days.
I mean, from your position, the former IT company burned it down on the way out, like sabotaged the sheriff's office, or basically did effectively for a little bit, sabotage the sheriff's office when you guys were moved over to a new IT company, which was a decision made by the previous administration, by Tony and company, but really was on you guys to carry out because of just timing.
Correct.
Wow.
So we ended up, so now we're in good shape. All of our servers, like I said, have been replaced. The battery backups for our dispatch were car batteries.
Okay.
So if let's say power goes out, car batteries start working.
Okay.
And then hopefully the generator kicks on because our generator was going out too.
Oh, man.
So we ended up having to replace all those power out sources. So if that does, and I think it was a $380,000 generator. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
was an expensive start to a term.
It was
okay.
very.
And those all sound like things that you are necessities, though. I
We didn't
can't
have a
not do
choice.
that. Yeah.
This whole year we were functioning on only needs.
Yeah.
We never got into any wants. It was, here's the needs that we need.
Well, then it's especially a mercy that grant situation didn't come back to bite you and they go, yeah, you got to repay that. And then you have X months or whatever, because that would have been just
We'd have been in
insult, salt in the wound. Yeah.
a lot of trouble. And the commission really did help with the generator.
Okay.
They helped pay for some of that. We also had to replace all of our jail floors. Our jail was not up to standards. The floors looked filthy, didn't look clean. It wasn't right. So we ended up we had a company come in and completely reseal and redo all the floors. Not just the jail showers, but even their pods.
Oh,
and
I bet that's interesting, because with a fairly full jail, depending on what time of year you're doing that, how do you shuffle people around and go,
it was hard.
Cell's getting painted today?
We were getting very creative, because our problem is our jail's full. It is full.
How many beds?
Try to keep it about 135.
What's max capacity?
150.
Okay.
And we've been over max.
What do you do when you're over max? Double up?
We're doubling up. At 150, we're doubling up.
Okay.
And we hit 159 over the summer. We ended up getting down to the 120s while we were able to do everything. We'd only do one pod at a time. We'd do one pod, and it's down for a week.
Wow.
So while they're doing the pod,
Gosh.
At one point they tripped our fire alarms, which tripped our sprinklers.
Oh, no.
So I lost 2 offices that flooded.
Oh, man.
So,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's just been...
What time of year was that?
This was September.
Okay. So still potentially a pretty kind of busy time of year for...
Yeah.
All right. Is the jail fairly full right now, December, as we're talking? I know, obviously, because of the way arrests, 24-hour holds, all those things work, I would imagine it in the summer, like you said, it's especially full because a lot of shenanigans in the summer. Right. But so how's it look right now?
About 120 inmates.
Oh, wow. So even in December, it's pretty full.
Yeah.
Are most of those, I don't exactly know I don't know if we want to get in the weeds on this, but are some of those people that were not arrested by the sheriff's office? Or because I know some of them are there through the State Department of Mental Health because they're not fit for trial, but the Department of Mental Health has like facilities, but then they don't have enough room in their facilities, so you end up having them in the jail here and stuff. But I guess what I'm wondering is, do any of the jail beds in Camden County get, I don't want to say commandeered, but basically taken by people they were arrested somewhere else, but it's, we don't have room for them, we're going to put them here?
As of right now, no. The only place that does would be Department of Corrections whenever they send somebody to trial.
Oh, I see. And it's like trial week or something, and they're staying in the jail here.
Yeah. And the problem is, to repay that, I think it's $28.75 an hour, or $28.75 what we get from the state when we house them. It costs about $120 a day to house an inmate.
Yeah. So that's at a loss.
So everything is just, and especially when you get into, like you said, Department of Mental Health, we have people in our facility that should not be there. They should be in a mental hospital.
Right.
They're not fit for trial, what have you. But because they're leaving them in our facility, all this cost falls back on our taxpayers.
Yeah.
So that we're having to pay for all of their medical expenses to house them.
Well, and I was talking with Rochelle about this, I don't know, it was earlier this week, I think. And she was pointing out that actually creates this terrible cycle, because the longer it is that someone who needs, frankly, medicine or needs to be in a mental hospital or whatever isn't in that mental hospital, and they're instead just at the local county jail, and your guys are doing the best they can, but it's not a mental hospital, right?
Correct. We're not.
Often the worse they deteriorate, the worse their condition gets. And then if the Department of Mental Health ever does open up a bed at a mental hospital facility for them, they're actually in worse shape than they would have been if they would have just gone straight there whenever they were deemed unfit for trial. And then they got to be there long. So she was just pointing out that actually that situation is terrible, because it gums up the whole pipeline of, I hate to put it that way, but of moving people through the justice system.
Correct.
Anyways, crazy. It doesn't sound like there's a ton of people like that at the jail, but
I think
one
4.
is, okay. So
I think we're at 4, I believe.
Okay.
And we've also got to have a psychologist. They send psychologists, Department of Mental Health does every so often. And that's what they're saying, oh, this is good enough. And no, it is not. It's not working.
So there are a lot of cases, a lot of things going on. You gave some number about how many calls your department has responded to.
I printed it off again today. So as of, the first thing this morning, we're at 18,700 calls.
This year for 30 road deputies.
Yeah.
And I did the math on that, I think, for my article or something, but I'm not going to break it down again right now. But the takeaway is that's a ton of calls.
It is.
For your guys to be
We're
responding
asking
to.
a lot, and that's why I try to get out and try to help alleviate, because we are asking a lot of our deputies right now.
And my assumption is that there's a high concentration of those between Memorial Day and Labor Day, presumably.
Yes, it does spike. The numbers have been staying consistent, though.
Okay.
I'd say we're running an average, even in this off season, about 50 calls a week.
Okay.
Or correction, a day.
50 calls a day.
A day.
Wow. And those are everything from very minor, I see like citizens assist there. I don't know what that actually means.
So somebody has a flat tire.
Oh, yeah. Everything from a flat tire, funeral escort, well-being check, there's an alarm going off, to death by suicide.
Correct.
Death, natural death. Like literally the whole,
it's everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got your burglaries, you've got every little, and then the numbers are over to the side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And that is just, again, that's a huge volume. Yeah, so if that's 374 calls a week on average, 53 calls a day. Yep. 18,000 total. 18,700 is what I see total there. So that's obviously a challenge. And I know that you talked about wanting more deputies so that you can just handle the volume more, and you're working on that.
Correct.
Obviously, a big thing that's been going on right now is funding for the sheriff's office. And I'll just summarize that because that's only interesting to people who think it's interesting. Yeah. And that's a very small subset of people, I think. Budgets, county budgets. But there was a sales tax that voters approved in 2007. And what it turns out is that while that sales tax on the ballot when voters voted for it said for road and bridge, I think it said, did it say law enforcement or did it say sheriff's? I forget how it was worded.
So the initial ballot said it was law enforcement, and then whenever they printed out the flyers, it said for sheriff's office, 12 new deputies and retention of prior deputies.
Okay. So on the ballot, it said law enforcement. Correct. In the advertising of it or the info sheets about it, it specified sheriff's office. Correct. I guess someone could argue law enforcement could be broader than specifically sheriff's office if that was on the ballot. But either way, the point is that it was supposed to be divided up between road and bridge, law enforcement, when in reality, road and bridge has been getting like 5% of the revenues from that tax for, I don't know if that was since 2007, but for a while. And sheriff's office has been getting, what is it, about 5% too, or a little more than that, but not half of it.
50%. So they basically take the law enforcement side, 50%. The sheriff's office got 20% of the 50, so 10%.
Okay, 10% to sheriff's office, 3 or 5 or whatever it was percent to road and bridge, and then the rest to just various things in the county. And when it started, that thing was bringing in 3-ish million a year, or at least when I've looked at charts, maybe I didn't look all the way back. But now this past year, I think that sales tax, that 07, it's a half-cent sales tax in the county, is bringing in over $6 million a year to the county. Million. And what the commission just decided to do, we had Tegan, our associate editor, there at the commission meeting this week. She published an article about this, was to more or less split that in half at this point and go, okay, half of that is for sheriff's office / law enforcement, whatever, sheriff's office, and then half of that is for road and bridge.
Correct.
So maybe that was still too long of an explanation, but anyways, so what that means is broadly the sheriff's office and or law enforcement in the county is going to get something like an additional $2 to $3 million next year. Is that what we think, or is it more complicated than that?
Hoping. Okay. We're hoping about 3.2 million, but we'll see. I haven't seen the numbers yet.
Okay.
But
there's definitely been action on that, and that helps fund the additional deputies. What else would you like to see those funds go towards at the sheriff's office?
is what that's going to, so is what this tax is basically just going to offset what they were initially cutting us.
Oh, that's right. Because what happened was when they were doing budgeting for this year, cuts were basically handed down.
Road and Bridge and us were the only two basically offices that were being cut.
Yeah, and you guys got, I don't know, what did they, was it like 1.5 or 2 million or something, or was it more than that they were going to cut?
It's about $1.5 million out of the sheriff's and about $1.5 million out of corrections.
Okay.
And other departments. So it's just right at about
$3
$3 million total.
Because corrections is under sheriff's office. So yeah, $1.5 million out of the sheriff's law enforcement side more, or operations, and $1.5 million out of the department, the jail.
It was
side.
deceiving how they were saying it, because the sheriff's office is, we've got operations, we've got dispatch, we've got records, we've got E911, and we also have the jail.
Yeah.
So
they're cutting $1.5 million out of the jail side and $1.5 million out of the other parts of three.
All different little parts, and then they were saying, "Oh no, it's only $1.5 million out of the sheriff's office." Right. If you take it in a whole, it was
about three out of
all of them.
Okay. At least that means it'll be net zero more or less, or maybe a slight lift, but not any dramatic cuts to the sheriff's office for next year. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I've enjoyed this conversation because I've learned a lot, and I hope other folks have too. A couple other things, and then if you had anything that you wanted to put out there, I want to make sure we get to that. But like, what do you see as the biggest issues facing the county? And this is a two-part question. One is on the law enforcement side, and we've talked about this a little bit. Like maybe one of them is we need more deputies. But if there are other things on the sheriff's office side, what are the biggest issues facing? The other part of that question is, from a law and order perspective, what are some of the biggest problems that Camden County has? We could say drugs, and that's an easy answer. It's a hard answer, but that's an obvious answer. But are there others that you would identify and go, man, this is a problem that we see growing? So there's a two-part question for you.
For the first part of the question, for the sheriff's office, I think the biggest need was our staff. That's one of the things we brought in is mental health and wellness. And
you hired a mental health and wellness director.
For so long in law enforcement, if you imagine, the average person sees maybe 1 to 3 major trauma events throughout their lifetime, and they get PTSD off that. A deputy sees 6 to 8 a shift.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And we were not doing anything to take care of the mental health of our staff. And then you have dispatchers that are taking these phone calls, and it's all by phone, and they don't even know what's going on. So now they're assuming the worst. And when they have those major events, now they're able to debrief. We've actually teamed up with a psychologist. He was a prior special agent with the FBI, and he was also with North Little Rock Police Department. He was a psychologist for them, and he's also helping with that.
Wow.
So that was probably our biggest need. When I got into law enforcement, if we ever said we're struggling with anything, the first thing they did is take our gun and our badge. There's a reason suicide is the number one killer for law enforcement. And I don't want that in our office.
You're saying taking the gun and the badge is not the way to help a guy who...
That's their livelihood. You take that. Imagine you make a living off of driving a truck, and I tell you can't drive anymore. It's the same thing. It's just, that's part of their identity. Then the second part...
Yeah, just issues of law and order almost facing Camden County. What do you see as problems or things that are growing, or I don't know, things that are improving? We could do that one too.
We've got a lot we're improving. Which if you're on the Facebook, drugs are huge. We brought in the Mid-Missouri Drug Task Force, and I will give them credit. Our deputies are assigned to that now. The commander for that drug task force came to me right after he came in, and he goes, "Sheriff, I've never seen so many large-scale dealers in an area in my 28-year career." And they cover Sedalia all over. And he goes, "There are so many large-scale dealers here.
In Camden County?
In Camden County. And we have taken most of those off the streets. Some of that stuff was coming in through the cartels. We've seized most all of that they're still going to keep trying. But drugs are, if you look hand in hand, realistically, it ties to every crime that there is. It's money, sex, and drugs. just about every crime that there is. So that's our goal, is to try to keep fighting that. I was looking at numbers. I noticed like our property crimes, stuff like that, are down, and our deputies are out patrolling the areas. That's one of the biggest things. There's been a whole big misconception of the CRO program. We did revamp the CRO program.
What's CRO?
Community Resource
Oh,
Officers.
yep.
The problem with it was not being managed. There were a lot of problems within that program. A lot of deputies weren't doing what they needed to be doing.
What are they supposed to be doing?
Working within the community. So is what we've since done is those spots, we've put them into patrol where we have patrol officers patrolling those areas under a sergeant. So they have supervision.
Okay.
Before, they didn't have supervision. They could go home, and the only way we know it is if I look at their car GPS. Now they have that supervision. Is where our next path is going to be going, is where we have a CRO, one main CRO that goes to all these community events.
Okay.
And then we now have each deputy stationed in all the areas. So we're looking into zoning out our deputies is what the goal is. Our Climax Springs that were all being overlooked for so long now have deputies in the area, and it's just strategically placing deputies. It'll lower the response time, and it also will help curb crime because they're going to see patrol cars, and that's where we've been doing.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, property crimes being down, you feel like at least that's been helped by, or will continue to be helped by,
it's going to continue.
Deputies being out there.
Correct.
More.
Yeah.
And then having more deputies will help them be out and about more.
They're not going to commit a crime with a police officer, with law enforcement officer there.
Yeah, visible presence is a real thing. It indicates that there's law and order here, like that it matters, and you're up against something if you try something.
Correct.
That's real.
It is.
Good. Anything else that you want folks to know about sheriff's office, about things that you see floating out there, rumors that you want to dispel? Here's your chance.
I haven't heard a whole lot of rumors. We had our shop with a cop, and I can't thank our community enough for the outpouring that we get. We were able to serve, it was 213 kids. And that's the best day of our careers, our year.
Yeah.
Being able to go around with these kids, and sometimes it's really sad because when you have young kids wanting to shop for groceries for their family, we always allow them to get their groceries and get other gifts.
Yeah.
They're going to get the gifts that they want, but it's eye-opening that the need of our community, and you also helped with that by setting up the Secret Santa, and I'm indebted to you for that.
Yeah, I didn't do much, but I helped send a few text messages. Yeah, and for folks that don't know, that we actually haven't even, maybe by the time this episode comes out, we will have, but a business owner that we know who likes to stay anonymous has for many years done a secret, not every year, but quite a few years, done a Secret Santa thing where he has gone with a deputy, or in this case with Sheriff Edgar, and gone and basically what you just go and look for folks that clearly look like they need help.
They do, and our Secret Santa gave them money, and he blessed a lot of people that day.
Yeah.
And I was so honored to be a part of it.
Yeah. That's always an awesome story we get to tell at Christmas. And I love that he has a heart to do that. And we always send a photographer that very carefully makes sure they don't reveal our Secret Santa, but gets lots of, powerful moments captured of people, him basically just handing them some $100 bills, handing them some cash, and just like at the time of year when, for those folks, it's always a struggle, but that's a life-changing amount. Yeah,
it is.
So
I thank you for that, for allowing me to be a part of that.
Yeah, thanks for helping facilitate it. That one's a good one. I'm excited for folks to see that story and those photos. They're coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
But our community also that we live in, whenever I give a lot of credit to the community with the deputies that we're getting the applications for, because the community supports us so much. When we bring in officers from other areas, they don't have that. So whenever, say, we go out to eat, we'll go out to lunch, and somebody anonymously just paid for our meal, and we don't even know who it was. And that's never happened to them before. And I said, well, our community takes care of us and we take care of them.
Yeah.
And that helps recruit. Just
cool.
Just knowing that they have support.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lake community is awesome. And what a giving community it is. You just see this all the time. So that's really cool to hear. And I would say about that, what you mentioned Ferguson earlier, and over the years, like the public relationship with law enforcement has been complicated, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
Complicated at moments with a lot of negative, and then at other moments with a lot of extreme support.
Correct.
And so what I think is really helpful, and what I think even the folks who are the most antagonistic against law enforcement would, I think, agree with, is that the closer that law enforcement can be to their communities, the better experience you're going to have with law enforcement, because people don't want bad guys who want to go steal and hurt and kill and all those things, thinking they can do that with impunity, right? With immunity. So people want like law and order in their lives and their communities. And so the closer that law enforcement and the whole pipeline, again, like we talked about, prosecution, all that, is to the community and the needs of their community, I think the better that community, the better time they're going to have, the better that relationship is, the better the outcomes are going to be. So I appreciate, again, even hearing your heart a little bit for the Lake community, for Camden County, the connections that your deputies are able to make there. I think that's critical. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to do our job without our citizens.
Yeah.
We wouldn't.
Yeah. I've kept you long enough. I know you have a lot ahead of you. And so I really appreciate you carving out some time to sit here and talk about this. I think I am confident that this will have been a really informative and hopefully inspirational episode to folks to get just a better sense of who you are, which, by the way, I'm just going to put it out here right now. JD Vance. Have you got that one?
I have not.
Okay,
dude,
I was sitting here. I was sitting here. Man, who does he look like to me? And then it came to me. That's like, JD Vance.
Hey, I'll take that.
He is Camden County's own JD Vance right here. Chris Edgar. Thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's been an honor.
Absolutely. Well, listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. That has been our Take on the Lake. If you would, please subscribe to the show wherever you got this, and maybe all the other places too. We're on YouTube, on the Lake Expo YouTube channel. You can find us there. We're on Facebook, Take on the Lake. We are on all the major podcast platforms on the audio side. Subscribe, share with your friends. This has been our Take on the Lake. Thanks for tuning in. Stay anchored, stay curious, and we'll see you soon.